Good evening, this is Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. 48 hours after the murder of journalist Gauri Lankesh, there is no significant progress in the police probe. But what has emerged is a vicious section of people on social media who've been celebrating her murder and then threatening other journalists. Is India being overtaken by hate? That's what we're talking about tonight. Also, Aung San Suu Kyi has spoken out after coming under fire for her government's treatment of Rohingya Muslims. Should India have taken a stand? We'll be talking about that a little later on the show. But first, today's developments. 2 days after journalist Gauri Lankesh was killed just outside her home in Bangalore, there are no clear leads. Police are currently probing whether she was followed on Sunday night by one of the attackers. A special investigation team visited her house again today. Meanwhile, her brother and sister, who've had differing views on whether or not she was getting any threats and from whom, held a press conference today and threw up this. Was the man Gauri Lankesh told her mother was lurking near her home on Sunday one of the attackers?
The only slight indication she had given was on Sunday somebody was lurking around suspiciously in front of the house.
As the Bengaluru police examined the CCTV footage recovered from her home, her sister and brother had different views on who might be behind her murder. Kavitha rules out Maoist involvement, a theory that surfaced on Wednesday.
I would like to say right-wing activists and other, because her whole ideology seems to be that against them.
Okay.
Or, I don't know. It's nothing, absolutely not personal, I know. They want to kill the movement. So they've not killed this thing. So I think that is it. So I don't want to pinpoint right now.
Her brother Indrajit does not rule out the involvement of Maoists in her death. Gauri had worked extensively on rehabilitation of Maoists and asking them to give up violence. Particularly thinking that it may be the Maoists behind this.
Yeah, it might be or it might not be. It might be the right-wing extremist itself, or it might be the Maoist itself because of the background.
As Gauri Lankesh's family struggles to come to terms with the impossible, the murder of their own sister, brother Indrajit Lankesh and sister Kavitha Lankesh held a joint press meet to show their unity, to show that whatever the million theories floating around, they just want a probe done by whichever agency to get answers as soon as possible, to find out who killed their sister and to bring them to justice. With DM Kumar, Maya Sharma in Bengaluru for NDTV. Well, there's been considerable controversy since yesterday on how sections of the social media have reacted to this murder. There have been some very, very hateful handles, not just hateful, but actually downright dangerous, because they've not only celebrated Gauri's murder in the most spiteful, most vicious language that you can imagine, but they've also been issuing death threats today to other journalists. And I'm going to come to that in just a moment. But first, I'm going to go across to my colleague Amitoj, who joins us this evening, where he's going to tell us about a statement that has just been issued by the head of the BJP's IT cell, justifying why, Amitoj, the Prime Minister is following handles on Twitter that are often full of abuse and hate. Amitoj, what does it say?
Right. Now, just to give a little bit of background, what's happened today, what has prompted the BJP to actually give out a statement. We've been trying to speak to them for the entire day, but we haven't been able to get through. What has prompted them is one of the top trends on Twitter today has been #block Narendra Modi. Now, what that means is that was basically because those who have abused Gauri Lankesh post her death are followed by the PM, and that is what the Twitterati were talking about. Now, one person also put out a tweet that said it takes him no time to tweet about Gajendra Singh or Nitish Kumar resigning. Why can't he unfollow those who abuse Gauri Lankesh? Now, you talked about the Prime Minister and the statement. The Prime Minister follows 1,779 people on Twitter. This statement is basically saying two significant things. The first is that the Prime Minister following someone is not a character certificate of a person and is not in any way a guarantee of how a person would conduct himself. Now, this is a statement by Shri Amit Malviya, as it said, National Head of the Information and Technology of the BJP. So, the second significant thing that is said in this statement is that he is a rare leader who firmly believes in freedom of speech and has never threatened he's never blocked or unfollowed anyone on Twitter. Now, that is a problem for a lot of critics simply because of two things, and I'll give two examples out here. The first is at RitaG74. This is one Twitter handle that has responded to Ravi Shankar Prasad condemning the abuse on social media categorically, and that person has basically said that we work for you tirelessly, to Ravi Shankar Prasad, selflessly, this is the reward. And there are many more examples like that. And even the Aam Aadmi Party, Arvind Kejriwal and Rahul Gandhi have been mentioned in this statement by the BJP. The Aam Aadmi Party has come out and said, we have no followers of Arvind Kejriwal who basically have basically talked about rape threats or anything like that. So at this point in time, the BJP coming out with a statement, that's great. But it is basically saying that the PM will not unfollow any of these 1,776 followers that he follows.
Well, Amitoj, we're going to talk about that. In fact, I think the Aam Aadmi Party has said just now that it challenges the BJP to name even one handle that Arvind Kejriwal follows that has issued a rape threat. So, Amit Malviya, if you're watching this, and I know you are very fond of watching everything that we broadcast, then please do put out the handles that the Aam Aadmi Party is following that are issuing rape threats. And I'm going to come to that discussion in just a moment. I just want to first go and play out an interview we did with Kavita Lankesh, Gauri's sister, a little while earlier today. And I began by asking her whether she had actually received any death threats. Did Kavita know of any death threats to her sister?
No, never actually. She just said some people had done hate mails, hate responses to her posts and things like that. But nothing so drastic. Otherwise, we certainly would have taken action and we could have gotten a security, anything, you know. So, but nothing like that.
Possible enemies, Kavita, anyone the family can think of who may have had an axe to grind with her. Any clues at all that you can provide?
She's absolutely, personally, she has no enmity whatsoever with anybody. Knowing her, she's a very loving, very gentle, very decent human being. But in terms of social media and all that, she did have a lot of ideological differences with people. But what I'm questioning is, just ideological differences doesn't mean that you can go and kill somebody. Whatever it is, you can discuss, you can talk about it. And she never, even when she posted something, when people said it's wrong or really worse language, they scolded her or threatened her, she just took it saying it's okay, you have your opinion, it doesn't matter, you know. And she treated everybody like a son or a sister or a brother. So there was no cause for this kind of drastic action to be taken. And this is what you're seeing is happening from throughout the country. Any kind of, especially journalists and activists, their voices are being silenced, which is what is very scary.
Your brother Kavita, Indrajit Lankesh, said yesterday that he heard that she had been getting threats from Naxal groups. Have you heard anything like that?
No, I don't think that's what he meant. He meant some minister had said that that also can be looked into, and he said he agreed, but I don't think so. We are both, that's why we had this joint press conference today saying that none of us have any difference of opinion. The entire family is with us and we don't have any suspicion with regard to this an accident or anything like that. Any possibility should be looked into is all he said, and there's been misconstrued over and over again. And for me personally, I think basically her ideology was the one which has been targeted, and more than her ideology has been killed, her voice has been killed. Thus, they're hoping that the freedom of speech in all respects should be stopped. This is what the threat has been coming on. By and large, as you know, it's happening quite a few places now.
Well, Gauri was very outspoken about the right wing. And does that indicate to you anything about what happened to her?
Yes, I know she was right wing against it, and she was quite extreme leftist actually. But does that mean that you have to kill? Even she's been extremely. My father and the whole many respected people in the society has been against fundamentalist extremists and all. That doesn't mean you're going to kill somebody. You can talk, you can discuss, you can have fights orally. Doesn't mean you kill somebody. No?
Kavita Lankesh, my condolences to you and your family. Once again, thank you very much for speaking to us on Gauri Lankesh, your sister's murder. Well, joining us on the program tonight, we have again with us Hamid Dabholkar, Dr. Dabholkar's son. If you remember, he was the rationalist who was murdered in Maharashtra, and there has been little headway in that case as well. Dinesh Gundu Rao, a spokesperson of the Congress and working president of the Karnataka Congress. Here in the studio with us, a journalist, consulting editor of the Times of India, Sagrika Ghosh, Shubhrashtra of the India Foundation, and Shobha Dey is joining us this evening from Mumbai. Sagrika Ghosh, to you first. Let's talk a little bit about the trolls, because you are among the journalists today who actually did get a death threat, and and you have now this defense that the BJP has put out about why the PM follows some of these handles. What do you think of it?
Look, Nidhi, I think what's happening is that, as you rightly tweeted on social media, we don't know who killed Gauri Lankesh. What we do know is who is celebrating her death. And the people who are celebrating her death all happen to be of a certain far-right Hindutva ideology, who are using foul language, who are using terrible words to target her, and 4 of them, according to the Times of India story, happen to be followed by the Prime Minister. Now, I was one of the journalists named in a hit list that one of these people has put out on Facebook, saying these are the people who now have to be the target of serial assassinations. Ms. Day is also on that list, so is Kavita Krishnan, so is Shaila Rashid. It seems that, women journalists and activists are the ones who are being targeted. Now, it's all very well for the BJP to say that the Prime Minister will not follow any of these handles, but the fact is many of these very abusive handles, many of these very abusive terribly foul-mouthed handles very proudly write in their bios that I am proud to be followed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, almost as if this legitimizes whatever they say. You see, that is the danger of what's happening here, Nidhi. We are legitimizing violent acts by violence of the mind. We're creating violence in the mind, which is leading to violent acts. Now, if Gauri Lankesh had been alive today, if she had been on your show, for example, talking about the Rohingyas, what would the nationalist anchors have done to her? They would have called her traitor, treasonous,
Naxalite, to begin
Naxalite, or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have called her all kinds of names, Deshdrohi, anti-national, whatever. Now you're creating a bad person out of someone who simply has a dissenting view and in a way legitimizing violence against them. That is the problem here. Are we legitimizing violence in our society because we're creating a violent culture and we are creating violence in the mind?
Shobha Day, is that what is happening? That we're legitimizing violence? This is the new normal. It's now being normalized in a way. Is that what is happening?
I don't think any civil that it's legitimizing violence. There's no such thing as legitimizing violence. Violence is violence. It has to be condemned. But when you raise the other issues about the hit list that's been published today, and I happen to be on it myself, that is a matter of enormous concern. And I did also tweet that it's imperative for the Prime Minister to disassociate himself from people who are spewing hatred and violence and creating this kind of a situation in the country where people who are, what is a crime? What is the crime that they're accusing someone like myself of just merely expressing an opinion that doesn't suit their opinion? For that, you're issuing death threats? What are we talking about? Taken seriously. Now, there are 2 schools of thought about this. One says, ignore it, because the more oxygen you give people of this kind by paying attention to them, the more they're going to thrive on issuing more threats to more people. Today is Gauri Lankesh, tomorrow it could be 10 other women who they find anti-national, traitors, offensive on various levels. Women's minds seem to threaten a lot of people. Women's personalities seem to threaten a lot of people. I cannot understand, and it cannot be justified, what's going on right now. I believe another journalist, Pankaj Mishra, if I remember his name correctly, right now has been targeted and shot and is critically wounded. It is a
Although
systematic.
we don't know that robbery may have been the cause for that, so we're going to wait and see
who they consider.
Yeah, what the reason was. Shubhrastra, though, how
we
is
don't
this?
know that, so okay,
Yeah.
but this is what the
Yeah.
ANI is putting out. There seems to be a systematic plan to target certain individuals who don't conform to the way of thinking of the extreme.
Right.
The right wingers,
I just still want to understand when the BJP says,
systematic planning is what I'm very concerned about.
When the BJP says the PM following someone
It's
is not a character
targeting, that is
certificate,
very specific.
but when somebody
It's
who
not generalized,
peddles,
it's
okay,
specific.
Shobha, one sec. When somebody peddles hate or issues threats on Twitter or uses very, very foul language and proudly says that, as Sagrika pointed out, that I'm proud to be followed by the Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, they feel that their actions are being legitimized by doing so. Actually, the Prime Minister would send a strong message by unfollowing such people, saying that he is not going to tolerate abuse, because freedom of expression and freedom of speech is not the freedom to abuse and to threaten people.
Yes.
I agree with the first part of your argument, Nidhi. I wouldn't agree with the second part. What the Prime Minister does is his prerogative. I'm not going to comment on that. Neither am I a BJP spokesperson to give you BJP's perspective.
As a citizen and as a woman,
yes.
I'm asking you.
As a citizen and as a proud Hindu woman, I have a huge problem when Sagarika Ghosh tweets about Hindu terror groups without any basis of her this sophisticated
That was
coinage.
a quote from the lawyer of Gauri Lankesh, who believes that the murder was done by Hindu terror outfits. That was his word, and that is what I tweeted as a reporter.
Since you are a journalist and a managing editor, I would have also respected if you put out her brother's version of the story as well.
Which
Since
I
you
have.
not.
Which
No,
I
you
have.
haven't. You haven't.
No, so I don't
been-
understand what
it's
does
been
that have
carried
to
in the
do?
same story.
What does
Any
that
same
have to
story
do
mentions
with the
it.
Prime Minister following hate handles? Why
As
is
I
he-
said, I'm not going to comment on the Prime Minister following the
I'm
hate
asking,
handles.
you know,
What I would, as a citizen of the country, I condemn all kinds of murders which are happening. Extremism is extremism, whatever color it is of. Murder is murder, whatever color it is of. But as a proud Hindu woman, I feel extremely enraged when editors
Is
of
it
highest
Hindu to
repute-
abuse? What does Hinduism teach us? Is it Hindu to abuse
Hinduism
and to use
teaches us to be
foul language
equanimous?
and to use the most dreadful
then
language
carry
for
on with
women?
your agenda.
I mean, is
There's no
that your
point.
Hinduism? Is your Hinduism to abuse and to use foul language? Is that what you call Hinduism?